Do you want to know what happened between the two of them before before the initial separation? Because I do. I want to know. Why, Will, were you done with her ass? Hey, it's your girl Ivy. Welcome back to my channel. Yeah, I've watched Jada's Red Table Talk at least 3 times now, because with each time I listen, I'm pulling something new from it, and I really wanted to sit back and dissect it. I think the main thing that's being highlighted right now is the word entanglement. And it's funny because we all see that she was using the word entanglement to escape admitting that what she had with August was indeed a relationship.
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship, absolutely.
And I think a part of that may have to do with acknowledging how real it was and how it did in one way or another impact her marriage and impact him. So first of all, let me just Google what entanglement means. Entanglement by definition is the action or fact of entangling or being entangled, a complicated or compromising relationship or situation. I want us to keep that in mind because I took notes and we're gonna come back to it. You know what, matter of fact, since we're already talking about complicated or compromising relationships or situations, let's just jump right to when Will started jokingly saying that, you know, he felt like he was that supportive husband with his wife at like a press conference or something, while she's kind of expressing her transgressions. And when he said that, she corrected him and said she didn't believe it was a transgression.
I feel like that husband, like, I'm with you at the press conference. I'm that husband. Now I got to be with you at the press conference while you like tell the world about your transgressions.
Well,
like I love my baby. I'm gonna stand by my baby no matter what.
well, you know, I definitely understand why it would look that way or feel that way, but I actually don't look at it as a transgression at all. Through that particular journey, I learned so much about myself and was able to really confront a lot of emotional immaturity, emotional insecurity, and I was really able to do some really deep healing.
Will referred to her actions with August as a transgression, and he was basically saying it was like him at a press conference being that supportive husband saying, I still love my wife, I support her, whatever. But Jada does not in that moment look at it as a transgression. She actually looked at it as a moment for her where she was able to do really deep healing. And I also found it interesting too that in that moment she also highlighted that it was August who cut her off. You know, it's not necessarily that she told him, yeah, we can't talk anymore. She said he cut all communication from her.
As I came through and started to realize certain things about you and I, he decided to break all communication with me,
Right.
which was totally understandable.
Right.
But even going back to how she's referring to her and August's relationship as an entanglement, what we now know is a complicated or compromising relationship. But when Will acknowledges it as such, saying that transgressions, for those who don't know what a transgression is, that is an act that goes against a law, rule, or code of conduct, an offense, right? So even though Will too is acknowledging that this is what we would say compromising relationship, she's quick to correct him and say, well, no, I wouldn't call it a transgression, because in that relationship I experienced deep healing. I was able to learn X, Y, and Z about myself. And two things from that, right? First thing, for her to kind of, I won't say downplay, but write off Will's feelings in that moment, because I don't think it was her intention to, but sitting watching, it's just like he's saying like this was something that went against us, and her saying, well, no, because I gained this from it. I could see how for him that would make him feel like she may be minimizing the impact it had on their relationship. And that makes me go into, and then number two, so beyond her like, kind of downplaying the fact that, yeah, this was something that kind of, broke the code for us. Number two is, it's like, it's almost like she can call it a bad thing, or it can only be acknowledged as bad or something that was hurtful if it comes from her. But if Will starts to expound on how it may have looked to him or how it may have impacted her, I don't think she's quite ready to deep dive it. Once again, we all have our opinions on it. You can tell me if you feel like I'm thinking too deep into it, but I'm just gathering all of this from not only what was said, but also the body language. So since we're focusing on what was said, I think you could tell that Will Smith is still struggling, it seems like, from what happened. Yes, it's been years ago, but you could literally see the pain in Will's eyes the entire time. And like his little comments just let us know that he's not completely healed from the situation, One of the first things was when she talked about how they were in a difficult time in their relationship, he quickly stated, I was done with your ass.
You and I were going through a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And we decided...
I was done with your ass.
Yeah, you kicked me to the curb.
I was done with you.
Yeah.
I was done with your ass. He was like, yeah, let me just make it clear. I was done. Like, I had enough. Okay? And even though they were laughing through it and all of that, it's like he was still saying a lot, even though he seemed very cool and like it was all fun and games. But we all know, if you don't know, we tend to use laughing as kind of like a coping mechanism sometimes, as a way to kind of self-soothe. Like you say something uncomfortable and you laugh about it. You're like, you say something that, bad about yourself and you try to laugh it off or joke it away. No, I think he was very serious in that moment. She knew that he was serious in that moment. And of course they're on camera, they're trying to make light of it. But once again, it just seemed like this is still something that he's working on. So that isn't even where it stopped, right? So beyond that, once again, she said she was using the word entanglement, and Will Smith was like, like, I'm being Jada right now. Basically call it what it is. Like, you keep saying entanglement, like, you and I decided we were going to take some space, and what did you do? And he called her out and said it was a relationship, and she was like, yeah, it was a relationship.
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship. Absolutely.
And so another thing that he said that really stuck out to me was that he told her, I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again. And the fact that I'm speaking to you again is a miracle.
Because I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again.
I know.
Yeah, like the fact that I'm speaking to you again is is a miracle.
So I feel like I'm not alone in this. I really, really would love to understand what happened before. Like, what caused them to separate in the first place? Because based on Will Smith's language, it seems like maybe something happened between the two of them. Maybe Jada may have done something to where he was like over it. And you know, usually when we hear these things or when we see these things, it's like the other way around. It's just like, oh yeah, the guy did something. But I just feel like it may have been something that Jada may have done, and they decided to take space, and they took space, and then she got involved with this guy, and it really hurt Will. That's what I'm gathering from this, because even beyond that, like, it didn't stop. It didn't stop at, I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again. He said, I don't want to go through this anymore.
I don't want to go through this no more.
Yeah, no, I don't either.
Yeah.
He made that clear. I don't want to go through this anymore. And he was like, once I get back at you. And then she was like, oh, like, you've definitely gotten back at me.
I'm going to get you back first, and then...
You gonna get me back. I think you've got me back. I think we're good on that, okay?
Okay, that's probably true.
You know.
And then she was like, I don't think it's about getting back at anybody. And he was like, no, it is for me.
And I don't think it's about getting anybody back.
No, for me it is.
Okay.
I was like, oh yeah, okay. He is saying a lot without saying a lot, you know? If it's about getting back at her for him, then he feels like she must have wronged him in one way. And I don't agree with the tit for tat, but once again, this just goes back to, it's clear that Will has been hurt by Jada in one way or another, and he's still managing those feelings. He's still moving through that, and yes, it's been years, but he may still be healing from that and hurting from that. Whew. It's heavy, y'all. It's heavy. One of the other things I wanted to note is that in the very beginning, they talked about how they, wanted to keep their relationship private. They wanted to keep things private, but it's gotten to a point where they feel like they have to be transparent, and they, I guess, owe it to their audience or whatever to tell their side. And I really appreciate that, because in all honesty, they really didn't have to tell us any of this. They really could have left it alone and continued to let people think whatever they think. For a lot of us who have been hearing these rumors about them, we've heard that they're in an open relationship, they're swingers, that Will Smith has a girlfriend who travels with him regularly. Like, they're always seen in the same places. Whenever Will travels, she is always like in a picture at the same exact location he took a picture. So maybe that could be what he means by getting back, getting back at Jada, or what Jada means by, oh, you definitely gotten back at me. But they really didn't owe us this. They didn't owe us a 12-minute conversation about why she was with August. It's really none of our business. So I did appreciate that transparency. I did take notes regarding this friendship that turned into a relationship, because one thing they both acknowledged was that initially when August was coming around, their entire family was focused on helping him heal, right? And she said she got really close to him, and then her and Will were going through a difficult time, and that's when they decided to go their separate ways. And that's when this friendship matured into this relationship, or as Jada calls it, entanglement. And I think that just kind of, at least for me on a personal level, like, I'm someone who's absolutely okay with the person I'm dating having friends of the opposite sex. That's never been an issue for me at all. But I think we all are aware of those friendships that are borderline inappropriate, right? And I feel like I could understand if Jada may have taken to someone that wasn't already so immersed in their family as a friend, you know. But I think for Will, maybe seeing that Jada entered into a relationship or a romantic relationship with this person who had been around the family, although he must have did a really good job of making it seem like he was cool, like that's probably something that really got under his skin, right? Because it's just kind of like, well, damn, you were saying this is your friend. What comes to your mind is, was it always something else? Like, did you guys always have a thing? You know, it's just, it can be very, very messy in that regard. Another thing that I noticed in regards to how they have a difference in opinions or views on the situation, which could be a little challenging, is that when he said that they decided to separate for a period of time, Will said, I felt like we could be over. And Jada said, no, we were over. Once again, that difference of opinions is what could influence how one person is impacted compared to the other, right? Because at one point, Jada even said she felt like the situation wasn't that deep, right? But you're saying your relationship was over when you decided to enter a relationship with August. Will was saying he felt like your relationship could be over, which meant there was a little inkling of hope that you guys would work out. And so maybe seeing you in that relationship hurt him even more, you know. I mean, once again, these are just my observations. I could be way across the room with it and not be, you know, anywhere near how they really feel, but they only gave us so much for us to interpret. And I'm just, once again, going off of body language and the little things that were said. Even when Will said, I think you need to say clearly what happened. You and I took our space and you did what? It's like he was calling her out, like, say what you did. We took our space. We didn't necessarily say we were going to take our space and enter new relationships or get involved with people. So we took our space and you did what?
I really felt like we could be over. We
were over.
And then what did you do, Jada?
He wanted her. It was like, you say you fucked around on me. Go ahead, say it. I want you to say it at this table. That's the vibe that I got from it. That's the vibe that I got from it. And then, once again, kind of reinforcing what I'm thinking, she says, we were going through healing in a much different manner, right? So they took their space, right? And her way of healing was entering this relationship with August. And, you know, maybe Will wasn't doing that initially until he felt like he needed to get back at her. So, I don't know. I just have a soft spot for Will right now. Just because, I mean, based on the conversation, it opened up even more questions. And to me, I really saw so much pain in his eyes. And just imagine sitting across from your husband or wife and hearing them talk about how they just wanted to feel good and they hadn't felt good in a very long time with you. And basically entering this new relationship, they feel good. They felt good. And they really enjoyed, well, from her, she said she really enjoyed, you know, knowing that she was healing someone. And she went a bit further. And this is not a piss on Jada show. We all have things that we need to work on. So in no way am I demonizing her in this. I just want to highlight the things that I heard, right? So she goes on to expand on how, you know, this is likely a part of her, the reason is likely her being codependent, right? and wanting to help someone, and her focus is always on fixing and healing people. Like, she takes on projects, and that's something that I can relate to. I'm really big on like helping people heal and all of that, and literally my therapist was like, I think it's so beautiful and wonderful how like that's one of your passions, that's like one of your missions, right? But you're in therapy right now focusing on doing the healing for yourself. And Jada said it. She found herself wanting to always heal people, help people, but the real person she should have been healing was herself. Which makes me just think about how, like, I don't think she realized she may have been healing him as far as his medical concerns go, but throwing him into the mix of her marriage may have also opened up some serious emotional wounds for him. I mean, considering once he found out that they were back on, Will and Jada were back on, that he just cut her off, and even now he's not talking to her. I think that speaks towards the hurt that August, may be experiencing from that relationship. Like, to her it may have been just a moment to experience him and then go back to her husband once she felt good and whole again. But for him, the way August describes that relationship, he said that was probably the biggest experiences in terms of love that he had. That was, I think, probably one of the most real experiences he had in regards to love. So to her, it may not have been that serious, or it may not have been that deep, but to him it was an extremely significant relationship. And to see a relationship as such and then come to terms with the fact that you aren't as important to a person can destroy you. So it's understandable why he cut her off, or he's hurt, or he doesn't want to talk right now. But once again, that goes back to Jada not realizing that although she may have been helping him in some way, she was also hurting him at the same time in order to nurse whatever wound she may have had at the time. So the question of why now, I know some people have been kind of highlighting that does make sense. Why talk about this years later, But then again, we have to understand August Alsina has been off the map for how long now? He recently came out with his album. I feel like this is one of the first times he's really been able to express like what he was going through, how he was feeling over these last few years. The loss of his sister, taking on his nieces as his own, going through his own personal health issues, and relationships. All of that was covered in Angela Yee's interview. This interview wasn't solely about Jada and Will, Jada and August's relationship. It was not. Simply put, it was like a little segment, and I think the interview is worth the entire watch. I don't remember how long it was, but I watched the entire thing, and I think it's beautiful to see his own growth and healing along his journey. I think that's what we should be focusing on. But of course, controversy is what gets the people's attention, drama. So that's what we ended up focusing on. But yeah, I think it was just one of those things where she asked the question, he expressed what was going on at that time, and then he kept it moving. He talked about a lot that he's experienced over these years. So that's probably the why now. Could he have kept it a secret? Sure. But once again, just like I appreciate Will and Jada coming to the table and talking about what's going on, I also thoroughly appreciate how raw and real August was in that interview, because I know how challenging that can be in the industry when you're put to such high standards. People expect you to be perfect. I really admire all of them for coming out and speaking their truth. It's a beautiful thing, especially in a world like this. Some key takeaways from the Red Table Talk is that no relationship is perfect. You know, J. Cole says he wants that Jada and that Will love. Well, for those who glorify their relationship, I think this is kind of a reality check to say, like, no relationship is perfect. My therapist loves beating it into me. Relationships are hard. Relationships are hard. Relationships are hard. She won't let me forget it, y'all. Relationships are hard. Just imagine, I mean, anybody that you have in your life, whether it's a friend, whether it's a family member, a coworker, anybody, you're never 100% happy with someone all the time. There are times where you're going to be annoyed, you're going to be angry, you're going to want to yell at them, you're not going to want to see them, talk to them. That's just life, because none of us are perfect, right? But I think what was beautiful about Will and Jada was how they highlighted, despite all the craziness that has taken place in their relationship, despite all the ups and downs, they've been honest with each other. And I think sometimes or a lot of times that's a major component that's missing within relationships. You may have all the care in the world, right? You may have all the affection in the world, right? But do you truly respect and honor your partner enough to keep it 100% real with them? And I think that's what's helped them, is they've been able to be open and honest with each other. I mean, for some, you know, maybe that's why the question of if they're in an open relationship has come about. And, you know, if they are, and they are keeping it 100, hey, that it works for them, right? And also, I think a lot of people don't realize that love, and I'm learning this in the book All About Love that I'm reading, love doesn't just stop at care and affection, right? Just because you make sure to buy someone food every time you guys go out, or you are having sex regularly, doesn't necessarily mean that your relationship is healthy, right? Because it takes more than just care and affection. Once again, it takes communication, it takes honesty, it takes responsibility, i.e. taking accountability for your actions. It takes that trust, that honesty, that transparency. It really takes honoring and commitment. It takes commitment to the person that you're with. And commitment involves fully opening yourself up to this person, even if that means getting hurt. It takes vulnerability. And so for them to be able to even give us a glimpse of that, it does give me hope. So it may discourage you because you're like, oh, damn, like I'm going to go through some shit with somebody. That's the reality. That's life. You're going to go through shit with somebody. But if you're with somebody who truly honors you and respects you and keeps it real with you, I think you're doing a pretty good job, you know? We don't tolerate the abuse out here in any form, right? That's not to say that you should accept abuse. You shouldn't accept physical abuse, verbal, mental abuse, manipulation, none of that. None of that. Granted, we're all healing, right? But no, you should not have to deal with that, right? But if you're with someone who's, you know, going through their own shit, and sometimes they may not, you know, be the nicest. Like I said, no abuse, but they may not be that nicest. Maybe they're like, I don't want to talk to you today, or whatever. I feel like it's still worth sticking it through. Their little funny ending, ride together, die together, bad marriage for life. I mean, I feel like y'all done been through shit, but y'all are doing all right. Y'all are doing all right. So that's all I got for now. It's already been 30 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap it up. I want you guys to tell me what you think. How did you take these things? Do you want to know what happened between the two of them before the initial separation? Because I do. I want to know. Why, Will, were you done with her ass? Why did you feel like you'd never talk to her again? Why is it a miracle that you're talking to her again? These are questions that we want answered. Next Red Table Talk, we'll see. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.
We ride together.
We die together.
Bad marriage for life.